No one thought a routine garbage pickup could uncover a hidden miracle. When Officer Daniels' K-9 partner began barking frantically at a trash truck, everyone thought it was just a false alarm. But what the dog sensed inside those heaps of garbage would uncover a miracle no one could have imagined. Officer Daniels steered his patrol car slowly down Sycamore Lane, sipping lukewarm coffee as he glanced at the dashboard clock. Just another routine patrol shift, he thought. In the back seat, Thor, his German Shepherd partner, sat alert and watchful. Thor had been with Daniels for 5 years, trained to sniff out drugs, track fugitives, and detect danger no human could sense. The bond between them was more than professional. It was a silent understanding built on trust and countless hours together on the job. Ahead, a green garbage truck rumbled along the curb, stopping at each driveway to collect the neatly lined bins. The sanitation crew moved with practiced efficiency, hoisting heavy bags and tossing them into the compactor without a second thought. Daniels nodded to the driver as he passed. Everything seemed perfectly ordinary. Neither man nor dog had any idea that within moments, this tranquil morning would spiral into a desperate race to save an innocent life. As the patrol car rolled past the garbage truck, Thor's ears suddenly twitched. He lifted his nose, sniffing the crisp morning air. Then, without warning, he let out a sharp bark that startled Officer Daniels enough to spill coffee onto his sleeve. "Easy, boy," Daniels muttered, dabbing at the stain. But Thor didn't settle. He pressed his snout against the rear window, his gaze locked on the truck as if it were the most suspicious thing he'd ever seen. Another bark exploded from his throat, louder this time, urgent. Daniels frowned. Thor had never reacted this way to a garbage truck. He slowed the car to a stop along the curb. Before he could unbuckle his seatbelt, Thor lunged against the door, claws scraping the metal. Passers-by on the sidewalk turned to watch, their curiosity piqued by the commotion. A sanitation worker in a neon vest glanced over, looking puzzled. "Hey, what's your dog's problem?" he called out, half annoyed and half uneasy. Thor answered with a deep growl that rumbled low in his chest. His body was tense, muscles quivering with some invisible alarm. Daniels climbed out and opened the back door. The moment the latch clicked, Thor bounded out, nose to the asphalt. He circled the garbage truck, barking so fiercely that the driver cut the engine and climbed down, hands raised in exasperation. Daniels felt a prickle of unease. Whatever Thor had sensed, it was nothing ordinary. Thor's barks grew louder, each one echoing down the quiet street. He planted his front paws against the side of the garbage truck, stretching his neck to sniff the top edge. His hackles stood on end, and a low, warning growl vibrated through his chest. Officer Daniels approached cautiously, resting a hand on Thor's back. He could feel the dog's muscles straining, the urgency radiating through every tense movement. Whatever was inside that truck, Thor was determined not to let it go unnoticed. The sanitation driver looked bewildered. "Sir, I don't know what's going on," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's just trash, same as always." Daniels studied Thor's behavior. This wasn't a false alert. Thor's training made him disciplined, precise. If he was reacting like this, it meant something, or someone, was in trouble. A small crowd began to gather on the sidewalks, neighbors peering out their doors. Murmured speculation rippled through them, blending curiosity with dread. "I need you to stop the truck right here," Daniels ordered firmly. The driver hesitated, glancing at the growing audience, then cut the engine with a resigned sigh. Thor darted to the back, claws scraping on asphalt as he leaped up, nose pressed to a corner where a tattered blanket peeked out from beneath broken boxes. His tail was rigid. Daniels' pulse quickened. He knew then, this was no routine call. Officer Daniels climbed up the side of the garbage truck, bracing himself against the cold metal as he peered into the mound of trash. The smell was overwhelming, rotting food, damp paper, and plastic, all mixing in a foul haze. But Thor didn't flinch. He leapt onto the edge beside Daniels, his nose working furiously. "Easy, boy," Daniels murmured, though his own heart hammered so hard he felt lightheaded. Carefully, he used his gloved hands to push aside a cracked cardboard box and several black garbage bags. Each shift of debris revealed more tangled refuse, but Thor's barking only grew more frantic. Finally, Daniels caught sight of something pale beneath a filthy tarp. He froze. A tiny knitted cap peeked out. His breath caught in his throat. Gently, he pulled the tarp back, uncovering a bundle wrapped in an old, stained blanket. Gasps erupted from the crowd below. For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Inside the blanket lay a newborn baby, its tiny face flushed and lips trembling. The baby let out a weak, ragged cry, so faint Daniels could barely hear it over the blood rushing in his ears. "Oh my God," he whispered. His hands trembled as he reached in, checking for a pulse. It fluttered against his fingertips, thin but miraculously present. Thor whined softly, his entire body vibrating with anxious energy. Daniels looked down at him, feeling tears prick the corners of his eyes. "You found her," he choked out. "You saved her." He turned back to the driver, whose face had gone ashen. "Call an ambulance," Daniels shouted. "Now." As the sanitation worker fumbled for his phone, Daniels gathered the baby into his arms, cradling her close to his chest. She was so small, so fragile, and yet alive. Daniels climbed down from the truck, holding the baby as if any sudden movement might shatter her. She let out a thin, pitiful whimper that cut straight to his heart. Thor stayed glued to his side, his dark eyes locked on the bundle, as if making sure the baby wouldn't disappear. "Hang in there," Daniels murmured, brushing dirt from her cheek. He could feel how cold her skin was, the way her tiny chest rose and fell in desperate, shallow breaths. He knew they had only minutes to get her help. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as the paramedics raced to the scene. The crowd parted without a word, their faces pale with disbelief. Some covered their mouths, others held hands over their hearts. No one could comprehend how close this child had come to vanishing forever in the back of a garbage truck. The ambulance screeched to a stop, and two paramedics leapt out. One of them, a woman with a steady voice, immediately assessed the baby's vitals. "She's hypothermic," she called out. "We need to warm her, now." Thor whined, pressing his nose against Daniel's elbow, as if urging him not to let go. "You did good," Daniels whispered, fighting the lump in his throat. The paramedics carefully transferred the baby into a warm blanket and an oxygen mask. As they climbed into the ambulance, Daniels caught the baby's tiny hand curling instinctively around the medic's finger. Even in the chaos, that small gesture felt like a promise of hope. Hours later, the sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the street where everything had unfolded. Officer Daniels stood by his patrol car, Thor leaning against his leg, both of them watching the last of the news vans pack up their equipment. The baby had been rushed to the hospital and stabilized, her condition upgraded to critical but hopeful. Reporters had called Thor a hero. Neighbors had called him an angel. Daniels just looked down at his partner, feeling more pride than he could ever put into words. When the hospital called to confirm the baby would survive, he finally allowed himself to breathe. The paramedics told him she'd been left in the garbage just hours after birth, abandoned with nothing but a thin blanket to protect her. Thor thumped his tail against the pavement when he heard the relief in Daniel's voice. The dog seemed to sense everything, from hidden danger to quiet gratitude. Later, as Daniels prepared to drive away, a nurse approached with a small note from the baby's mother, who had been found and taken into custody. The paper read only, "Thank your dog. He saved her when I could not." Daniels bent down, pressing his forehead to Thor's. "You did more than find her," he whispered. "You gave her a chance."